What up, y'all? It's Teacher, and today we're going to be talking about which Kalos Pokemon might get Megas in Pokemon Legends Z. Of course, the feature's returning, and the main region they're going to want to target is Kalos. So we're going to go through all of them and see which ones realistically could get them. We're not going to give any freebies out here. So starting from the top, of course, we have the three starters, Chestnaught, Delphox, and then Greninja. All three of these have to get Megas in Legends EA. When X and Y and Auras first came out and stuff was fizzling down, it seemed like maybe they weren't supposed to get Megas, because if you actually look at all the Mega evolutions in the game, there are no Gen 6 Pokemon at all, except Diancie, which is why it felt so weird to see a Gen 6 Pokemon Mega evolving. But so it gave the impression that Pokemon wasn't going to give Mega evolutions to the newer gens, and for sure not to Gen 6, which is why, we got like one Unova Mega evolution. But even if that was how they were thinking back then, things are different now. These are the three mascots that they'd want to give the Megas to, in the same way that the three Galar starter got G-Max forms, right? So we have a good chance of seeing Mega Chestnaught, Mega Delphox, and Mega Greninja. We'll go through them real quick. Chestnaught right now is grass fighting. It's likely these three will stay the same typing, but Chestnaught would focus more on its defenses. It might get the same treatment as kind of like Slowbro, but in the sense that it might get this giant shell that goes over its whole body. Delphox is probably gonna feed into that whole magician class, so it might get a bigger wand, might even get like a robe type made of flames, and then it might even get the witch's hat, or like the fluff in its ears, they connect together to make a witch's hat. Oh, you know, it'd be so cool for Delphox if when it mega evolves, its animation is it's just sitting on a broom and floating, either front sitting or just sitting to the side. Oh, that'd be so cool. Delphox is sucky right now. I like Delphox, but they gave it like a signature move that's weaker than Psychic. They made its staff disappear in its idle animation. Delphox has to get the most love. And then Mega Greninja. Greninja is gonna get one of the craziest Mega evolutions because it's the most popular starter. It's why Ash had his Ash Greninja in the anime. Let's look up some artwork for these. Wow, so here's an interesting one for Mega Chestnaught, where at first it doesn't seem too different, but you can see what they're going with. It's got the bigger spiky shell, and it looks like the idea is it can actually close itself off. So Chestnaught here would probably get a lot slower, but have crazy defenses. Remember, Megas get that 100 BST boost. Let's go to Delphox. Hey, I found one with the witch's hat. This is cool. So I suppose there aren't too many differences, but one is it now has a blue flame on its staff, and its tail also does this cool thing where it splits, kind of like the legend of the Ninetales fox, right? Which is like in folklore something that tricks people. It's spreading out like that, has a cool feeling that it's like overflowing with power from the Mega evolution. Then of course it has the witch's hat. So you see how normal Delphox is just standing there? This one isn't on the broom, but this is also a cool idea where it's floating now. Kind of like Mega Mewtwo Y, right? It would just be floating in front of you. That's a good one. Okay, so Mega Greninja is the hardest one to come up with because you have to not go too overboard with the features, but you also have to make it look really cool. Here's a design for Mega Greninja that takes inspiration from Ash Greninja, it looks like, right? Because it's got the giant shuriken on its back. But I like these small features they've given it. One, I think the tongue wrapped around an extra time. But two, it's got a more aquatic look to it. It's got like that gill look right here. And it even has those fins to make it more streamlined. But because they're sharp, it just makes it look more savage. This is such a simple design for it, but this would work. You know, the way things are going, Greninja about to get Mega Greninja X and Y. Just wait. It's too popular, man. You know what? Let's go to Plan B. Let's look at their signature moves to see more of Game Freak's imagination concerning these Pokemon. So, not the later gens, specifically how they were animated in Gen 6. Chestnaught's signature move is Spiky Shield. Of course, they gave it to other Pokemon afterwards, but it's his signature move. And the way it uses it is by putting its arms together, and that's how it's blocking itself, and so that's the animation. So they could take this into account when making its Mega. So this design from earlier is a good take because it can completely close itself off and be a giant spiky shield. Whoa, here's another interesting idea for Mega Chestnaught. So it's actually normally like this, So it forms this giant armored ball around its main body that it can also retract into, which is an interesting like defense mechanism. But also, even without retracting into its shell, it can bring out those spiky shields. So it can passively defend and also attentively defend. So that's Spiky Shield. Delphox's signature move is Mystical Fire, and when you see the way it's animated in Gen 6, they take their wand out and it makes this circular fire that it like casts on the enemy. That's the idea I get from it, that it's not just a flame but like a spell, and that's why it lowers the enemy's special attack by 1 stage. So making it a whole mage or spellcaster would be a good idea for its Mega Evolution. I found one on the broom! I like this. Goodness, it's so witch-like. So they tied their entire extra cloak. Wait. So you telling me in the Mega Evolution animation, this is what Delphox up to? But this is cool. It gets a second stick that it floats on and it's just smug. I like this. This thing smugly using Mystical Fire is very fitting. And here's one more with the witch's hat, but this time the witch cloak, though made from its fur, looks a lot more like an actual witch's. This one's also fitting of like a spellcaster, but it's made to make it look more graceful than smug. It's crazy. Delphox has the best potential for Mega Evolution. Let's do the last one. So Water Shuriken. So the way Greninja uses Water Shuriken is actually interesting. It reaches towards its sides and pulls them out of its thighs and can instantly fire infinite water shurikens. And if you look at its concept art, you can actually see this a bit better, how easily it can just pull out a shuriken. And so this is something they could expand into something big when it mega evolves. They could allow it to shapeshift it into different ninja weapons, or at least variant shurikens. And they expand on this in its Pokédex entry all the way in Scarlet and Violet, where they explain that the thighs are the spot that it produces the materials to make the shurikens. So that is something that's interesting compared to Ash Greninja, for example, where its focus is having this giant shuriken on its back. So Greninja does have an interesting setup to take a different path than Ash Greninja. Would people like it if Mega Greninja just looked a lot like Ash Greninja? Would they be like, damn, we waited 11 years and we got the same crap? Maybe they could do something where it looks like Ash Greninja, but pretty much what you're saying, where that's just Mega Greninja Y. Remember how different Mega Charizard X looked? What kind of Mega Evolution would you make if you could invert its color scheme like Mega Charizard X? Both of the X's are like anomalies. Well, it depends how you read it, right? Like Mega Charizard completely inverted, and then Mega Mewtwo X, right? This man was never gonna fight with his fists. Now he only fights with his fists. He's got like these bouncy arms. Oh, they have to do that. That's probably what they should do. Mega Greninja Y is like a more neutral Ash Greninja with some added features, but they could save a whole new design and change how Greninja fights completely for Mega Greninja X. The Greninjite Y and X. Well, I went too far with this video, so we're gonna have to actually do the video I planned later. But one thing to note about these Kalos starters is it's kind of weird how they gave these Kalos starters an interesting secondary typing, right? But nothing really came of that secondary typing. Their signature moves aren't of that secondary typing, and the main feature in their appearance doesn't have to really do with that secondary typing. For Delphox, it's just a fire. For Greninja, it's just a water shuriken. And then for Chestnaught, it's just this green defensive Pokemon. You don't see fighting, dark, and psychic really in their appearances. So maybe they could actually show off that potential instead in its Mega Evolution design. And so we don't base it off these signature moves. It'd be just like Mega Gyarados, right? Bringing out some kind of a deep potential and it getting that dark type. So maybe their Megas would bring out that whole fighting, dark, and psychic side of them into its appearance instead. I think that might be a better idea. Anyhow, make sure to shank that like button. We will make the Kalos video a bit after this. I just really wanted to talk about the starters. Let me know how you think the 3 starters could get Megas in the comments, and if you agree that Greninja is gonna get 2. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care.